Welcome everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Hangout, and we're going to be talking about healing the leaky gut. I'm your co-host Scott Patton, and joining us as usual is the founder of Life Enthusiast Co-op, Martin Patella. Hey Martin, how are you doing today?
Scott, my pleasure. Raring to go. Coach's Corner, ready to dispense its wisdom.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to be talking about the leaky gut today and restoring full function to the barrier between the dirty outside and the sterile inside.
This is a great point. If you could imagine that it starts at your mouth, and it ends at with your anus, it's a pipe. It's a continuous pipe, and it actually is the outside running through the middle of you. And by outside, I mean under your skin, in your flesh. That's your inside. You're sterile on that side. And if you do any operations, any medical procedures, you need to be sure that you practice good sterile techniques. Otherwise, you're introducing infection right into the body.
Right. So when we put infection right into the body, one of the ways that seems to be happening is through our digestive system not working the way that it should be working.
Right, and that's the topic of the leaky gut. When you wear down, when you somehow diminish the barrier, and that's the barrier. The barrier is formed by the villi in the small intestine, and the villi, they look a lot like finger projections, or more like blades of grass, and they're supposed to be matted together and holding together, and they should have tight junctions, and it should be very difficult for things to pass through, and only little single proteins should be passing through, not clumps. In fact, it should not be even proteins. It should be individual amino acids that get in, fully disassembled food.
So it's created in a way that the right things are supposed to get through, not the wrong things.
Yes, that's correct.
And when the wrong things get through, we have leaky guts, and so all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of problems that come as a result of that.
Right, so we should suggest to people, if you want to study it in detail, just pause the video and just go over these 11 steps. You know, and in the first one, we were talking about the stressors, which is bad foods, bad habits, whether it's medication, stress, lack of enzymes, and whatever else happens, the negative influences, which then will somehow disconnect the joints, the junctions, and bad stuff starts coming into the gut, and then the immune system kicks in, going to start addressing the issues that are leaking through. Like on this illustration, that's that 5-piece or 4-piece chunks instead of single individual molecules, and then the immune system kicks in, and you can complicate it. Let's not do a degree in biology here, but the T cells, B cells, and killer T cells all jump onto the job. And here comes the final result. Cross-reaction with different tissues and induction of autoimmune disease in different organs, which could be skeletal muscle, that's fibromyalgia, pancreas, that's digestive problem, kidney, liver, brain, others. It could be in any organ of your body. So let's just go through the pieces. Can you advance?
Sure.
So the leaky gut syndrome is a claim used for the intestinal lining becoming more permeable. It's like stretching a sweater, and all of a sudden you have air blowing through the eyelets. And then toxic material enters into the bloodstream, and these could be foreign bacteria, fungi, parasites, and their toxins. And worst of all, underdigested protein pieces will get through, and then your liver and your lymphatic and immune systems get overloaded, and then stressed, and then clogged, and trouble. Big trouble.
So how does this affect you?
Right. So the symptoms that you'll see, like brain fog, migraines, back pain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, allergies, lupus, hormone disruption or dysregulation. All of these are autoimmune diseases, all of them resulting from the reaction. It's called histamine-mediated reaction. Essentially, your body is releasing the same thing that your allergy medicines are trying to suppress. You take an antihistamine to block the body's reaction.
Right.
But it would be smart to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Right. So when we take an antihistamine as an example, what we're trying to do is cover up a symptom that's coming up because of a problem that's underlying without actually dealing with the problem that's underlying.
Right. Exactly.
So,
it's that chewing gum glued onto the red light on your dashboard.
yeah, right. Yeah, the red light's on in the car, which says, you need to do something. The car is going to stop working, so take some chewing gum, put it over the red light so it's no longer blinking and bothering you, and continue to drive your car.
Yes.
And of course, we all know that's not a wise thing to do.
Right. So let's take the car to the mechanic. Step to the next slide. Let's see here.
Oops. Did I go one too many?
Yes.
There we go.
And so if you have a problem, typically you would go to a doctor. It's the logical thing. We have all been taught and programmed to go to the doctor. That's what I did when I had my problems. And so depending where in your body this pain, this trouble is located, your doctor will give it a name. Because doctors, they diagnose things. So they'll diagnose asthma if it's in your lungs, or fibromyalgia if it's in your connective tissue, or they tell you it's rheumatoid arthritis if it's wrecking your joints, and so on. They give you a name, and they call it a syndrome. And the reason they call it a syndrome is because they don't have a single cause, and they can't fix it. All they can give you is pain meds and antidepressants.
So when you fall out of a tree and you break your arm, they can fix that. They take you in, they straighten it, they put pins in or whatever they need to, they put a cast on, look after it, and you're going to, in a few weeks, you'll be healed and you'll be fine.
Right. Or if you show up with, I don't know, say an STD, you got gonorrhea, well, great. They'll give you an antibiotic that specifically addresses that one bug. It's killed, it's done, and you go back to living your life.
Right. This is something where they have no, they're not going to deal with the leaky gut, so they're not dealing with the cause of the problem. They're just going to try and make it so you're not in so much pain.
Right. But the sad thing is that the drugs are part of the problem. They are going to create further destruction in the gut.
Oh, I see.
So we're in a vicious circle. We have fewer symptoms, fewer of the symptoms that we came with, but we're going to create new problems. There's this little schematic on the bottom right that illustrates that. You show up with pain, and you go and you get an anti-inflammatory drug like NSAID or something of the sort, and you create some damage in the gastrointestinal tract. Therefore, you create leaky gut or more of leaky gut. With that, you will have more inflammation in the body elsewhere. And
you have more stuff going into the body that it shouldn't be going into the body.
Right, and so you have an immune reaction and a histamine release, and you have more pain. Hence, from the leaky gut, we are creating a systemic problem where the bloodstream is being invaded by bacteria, fungi, parasites, their poop, whatever, I don't know what to call it, their excrement, and your cleansing organs are overwhelmed. And then you're starting to come up with more and more problems. And your food allergies and sensitivity to smells, perfumes, cigarette smoke, can't touch certain things, like you can develop a latex allergy. Or some people become ultra sensitive, hypersensitive to chemicals, to electronics. There are people now among us who cannot live anywhere where there is Wi-Fi. There are now communities set up far off in the rural where they're intentionally not bringing in anything that's wireless. It's all off.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of the direct causes of leaky gut?
So there are two. One or two types, two classes. One is the microbial devastation, meaning you have killed off the good microbiome that was previously living in your gut. And you do that with the help of antibiotics and drinking chlorinated water and ingesting drugs like the painkillers and related and steroids. So where the good doctor thinks he's helping you to deal with the first round of pain, in fact, in the process of dealing with your pain, he's making you worse off. And then the parts that you yourself are typically failing at is the dietary choices. Refined foods, the 5 white foods of death. Refined sugar, refined flour, refined salt, refined oil, and I can't remember what the 4/5 one, but it must be important. Did I say sugar?
Yes.
Okay. One of
And
the
then you got
things,
fried foods.
yes, I just want to point out the reason I'm not perfect is I'm just like the people probably watching this video. I have had gigantic amount of damage done to me through everything that I'm describing here. I'm well covered, but not perfect.
You're human like the rest of us, Martin. It's good to hear.
Yeah. Anyway, the peroxidized fats, that's a major issue. Fried food, really, folks, that's very, very damaging. It's aging you fast, and it's harming your gut. And lastly, the food coloring and what are they called? Preservatives?
Preservatives, yeah.
Yeah, those.
Red number
Those
5.
Yes, and carrageenan and emulsification and all the stuff that makes food stable, shelf stable. Yes, we are paying less for food than we ever did, and we're getting exactly what we're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I bought a set of buns, and they were from a company called Silver Hills, which means they're all kind of organic, and they actually
that's
make
sprouted.
They're sprouted and everything else. And my son bought a package of buns. And so they were sitting on the counter side by side, and in a few days, my buns had mold all over them, and his were looking exactly the same. And at that point, I realized, like, we have a living food here, so to speak, and we have a dead food here, so to speak. And you know, it's a big choice we're making.
Right. That was a fine demonstration of shelf stable.
Yeah.
Excellent for the grocer, not so good for the consumer.
Yeah. So what do we need to eliminate to get back onto the healthy track here?
We write about this elsewhere in our book. It's the 4 pillars of wellness, or the four legs of distraction. The toxicity. We need to get rid of the toxins that we have already ingested. That means you need to run a detox, especially heavy metals, and you need to clean up your life. You need to get rid of herbicides, pesticides. That means you need to eat organic. You need to get rid of volatile organic compounds. That's all the hydrocarbons that evaporate quickly.
So
like
if you've got air freshener in your car or in your bathroom, you're not helping yourself.
Not at all. No. The Glade, that should be called the breath of death. Ugh. And dry cleaning and acetone from nail polish and things like that.
Okay.
And petrochemicals, you know, inhaling fumes from your car tank, not a good idea. And then there's the malnutrition, where we have lack of real nutrients coming into our mouths. When we cook food, or when it's canned, pasteurized, or preserved, it's deficient in enzymes. But it's already grown on fields that are deficient in minerals. So from the beginning, this is already mineral deficient food. And then when you introduce into that genetically modified, they're further less nourishing, and they're that much more toxic because now GMO is an equivalent to glyphosate or Roundup Ready. Because what they do is they plant seeds of Roundup resistant foods, and then they spray the field with the Roundup, and only the desired plants survive, and the undesired don't grow. But the
Yeah,
foods are
I was just thinking on the toxicity side, you've got get rid of herbicides and pesticides, and on the malnutrition side, you've got get rid of genetically modified foods, which of course are genetically modified so they can have more herbicides and pesticides.
that is
So
correct.
so you've got the two of them working in conjunction there to give you a double whammy.
That is very correct. And the last bit in nutrition is that you need to eat according to your metabolic type, meaning that some people need to eat low-fat, low-protein diets, others exactly the opposite, in order to be healthy.
Right. Cool. All right, so we're going to reverse the effects of stagnation and disruption as well.
That's right. The stagnation, when you don't move enough, when your lymphatic system isn't circulating at sufficient rate from lack of exercise, too much sitting, not enough walking, not enough bouncing on your rebounder.
Perspiration is good, and we want to stick an antiperspirant on, which is full of all those things we said in the previous slide you don't want, right?
Yes, can you believe it? So you save on your laundry bill, and you give yourself breast cancer in the process.
Yeah, and breathe it all in. Nice. And what does lymph congestion mean?
Your lymphatic system is the fluids that bathes your cells. At the end of your capillaries, this is as far as your blood will reach. The nutrients are passed on from the blood, especially the red blood cells, onto the lymph, and then the lymph delivers it to the cells, and then the cells work with that, and then they dump the toxins back into the lymph, and then the lymph carries it to the blood, and then the blood picks it up and carries it over to the filtration organs, your liver and your kidneys. So when there's not enough circulation of your lymph from lack of movement, you're becoming stagnant.
That's the only way you can do it, right? Unlike blood, which gets pumped through by the heart, the lymph has no heart, so to speak. It just sort of swooshes around.
Yeah, you need to bounce against gravity. Walking, rebounding, skip rope, that sort of thing.
Right. Well, what about rolling down a hill? We used to do that as kids.
I think that works.
That would kind of give it too. What I found too really interesting was when I rebound, particularly if I haven't done it for a while, and then I stand off. It's like stand again.
Something happened with the line connection. I don't know what that is.
The liquid inside me that still hasn't stopped bouncing around.
Right. Yeah, it feels like that. I have this feeling that when I get off my rebounder, I am filled with joy. Like I feel just invigorated, like really excited about life.
Huh. And I think we need to talk about skin congestion.
Well, definitely. Your body, if your filtration organs are not able to get rid of everything that your liver is trying to push out, it will start pushing through your skin. So we will develop these unsightly things, the red spots on your face, just like what you can see on me. And then there's the last chapter, the disruption of vibrational sort, where you are needing to deal with the subtle, invisible things that are blocking the chi, the prana, the invisible life force that is flowing through each one of us.
Right.
And it does get disrupted by electromagnetics. The Wi-Fi's, the hands-free phones, the electric motors, the hair dryers, the transformers that you have, the black block transformers that we now use for everything. They put out a lot of bad energy vibes. And then, of course, there's the subtle stuff, your emotional patterns, listening to destructive music, and living in toxic relationships. That all adds up.
And the good news is we can do something about this, right?
Yes. Well, Life Enthusiast has been doing this for the last 15 years. Here's a sampling of the kind of tools that we use to deal with it. Like, for instance, the first little picture is of zeolite. We use that to help drag the heavy elements like mercury or lead out of the body. And fulvic acid, that's the next bottle, helps to detoxify cells on the internal side. And then
So it gets into the cells and actually pulls out anything that might be in the cell that's not beneficial to you.
Right. So anyway, the next one would be our structured water. You can't be just drinking dead water. The dead municipal water just doesn't cut it. You need to use some tools that will structure the water correctly. We have plenty of information about it on our website.
So get it like the water that used to run down the mountain streams 10,000 years ago.
Well, you can still find that kind of water here and there in national parks or in the mountains, but not everywhere. And the municipal water that comes out of the tap, that just needs to be worked on. Yeah. And then the purple dot, that's about metabolic typing. We offer metabolic typing as a service where we will help you figure out what you need to do, what you need to know about yourself, and what you need to do about your nutrition so that you're getting healthier rather than sicker.
And this is just an easy example of this. Is Atkins diet was very, very popular, and a lot of people lost a lot of weight, but a number of people also got very, very sick because they were eating against their metabolic type. And then you have another diet that is really successful, and a lot of people have lost a lot of weight, and unfortunately some other people got really sick. But it was exactly the opposite of the Atkins diet. So then the question, so it's kind of like, well, how can you have these diets that are successful for so many people, and yet they're like, high fat, high carbs, low protein, high protein, all these sort of things. And the answer lies in the metabolic typing. Those people that are have a metabolic type that need high fat, high protein, they do really well on those diets, and when your body does really well, it just naturally drops its weight that it doesn't need to carry anymore because it doesn't think it's going to be starving. And so the metabolic typing is kind of a key, in my opinion, to this whole thing kind of working. Yeah, it's not relevant to the detoxing, and it doesn't matter what your metabolic type is. You need zeolite, you need the Humalife products, and you need water. But when you start putting stuff that you need to chew in your mouth, oftentimes we're misled because so-and-so did this banana diet and lost 30 pounds in 15 minutes, and so we think we should be eating bananas, but it has the opposite effect on us, and we don't understand why, and this is the answer to that question.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And so we have these bottled products that are ready to consume, full of wonderful nutrients, the types of superfoods that will make up the difference between what you can buy in a grocery store and what you should be getting. Supplementation these days is no longer optional.
Right, and that's the Exla line.
Right. And then we have the rebounders, exercise equipment. The wonderful thing about it is that you can have it in your home. It's easy to use, and it is ready at all weather, cold, hot, raining, in 10, 12 minutes a day is a phenomenal benefit because it gets your lymph moving.
And if you have young children, they love to get on there and bounce with you.
Yes, and wear themselves out so they become very pleasant when you finally bring them to the table in the evening.
Yeah, or go to bed and they actually go to sleep.
Right, that too. And the last two pieces there, ADR3 is a vibrational protection for the whole rooms. It will neutralize computers and routers and Wi-Fi and cell phones and that sort of thing. And the last item is we call it the Celgar and a Protec. Protec pendant is a protection against vibrational disruption.
Wonderful.
I guess to bring it all together, dealing with healing is like managing a game of football or a football team. You need to have the offensive and the defensive team, and you need to have also the coaches and the maintenance crew that cuts the grass and the people that will wash the uniforms and the whole supporting organism that grows all around it to have a successful football team.
Yeah, and I was just thinking as you were saying that, what would happen if we didn't have the people that went through the stadium after each game and cleaned up, got rid of all the toxic plastic bottles and half-eaten hot dogs and on and on, using this analogy, right?
Yeah.
If that didn't happen every time it was used, what would it be like at the end of the season? You wouldn't be able to. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to stand in there.
Right, but even just going to the players, you'll see the analysis of the such and such quarterback won the game, or such and such running back did this, or receiver did that. Well, if you focus on this one component, you may improve the game. But if everything else is in disarray, you don't have a chance.
You can have the best quarterback in the world, but if his offensive line doesn't protect him long enough for him to be able to find the receiver and throw the ball, he's going to be in trouble.
Right. That's the sort of thinking that we apply to dealing with chronic inflammatory disease, and the leaky gut is essentially at the front of that.
Right.
So I just wanted to show a couple of examples of the results that we get. Here's a note. Loring is a fellow who contacted us. His wife was on heavy medication that was because of her seizures. And he writes, my wife has been constipated for 20 years or more due to a very heavy medication load that she must take. Doctors have never offered any relief. She started on the Strataflora nearly 6 months ago and has been taking about a teaspoon a day. Within a few days, her problem was and still is solved. 110% satisfaction. Life Enthusiast and the products they offer are a great find for those of you reading this.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right. Or just the one above there. I'll just read the last sentence. Thanks so much, Life Enthusiast, for helping to restore my health.
And that's our mission statement, restoring vitality to you and the planet.
You can reach us at www.life-enthusiast.com and on the telephone at 1-866-543-3388. We're there to help you understand and resolve the underlying problems, the challenges that are blocking the expression of abundant health.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time when we do our next health hangout. And this is the Life Enthusiast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. Bye-bye.